Hello, I'm Mark, and welcome to my Unreal Engine tutorial series. In this video, we'll be going over Unreal Engine's plugin system and how you can use it to create your own plugins for your Unreal Engine projects. Okay, so let's just do a brief overview. So if you're new to Unreal Engine, or if you're just new to using plugins in Unreal Engine, you can go ahead and find this plugin screen, as you can see, as I've got up here, under Edit in the Editor tab, and then right here, Plugins. So when you go to Edit, hit Plugins, you'll get this screen. And like I said, if you're new, or if this is a new project, right, you should already see the built-in plugins. So these are all the plugins that come right out of the box. And as you can see here, these are all shipped. These are all plugins created by Unreal Engine, and they're freely distributed. And there's plugins of all kinds in here, and also of various states. So some are in beta. Some are flagged as experimental, so Epic doesn't recommend shipping this with with a project. But they're putting it in there to see if they get community feedback, see if this is something that the community actually wants, or if there's things that they can do to change it. And usually, when it's experimental, it's in various. That code is in various states of flux, versus if it's marked as beta, then there's going to be some backwards compatibility as they continue to kind of clean it up and get it to version 1 status. All right. So after that, the next level is installed, and this is kind of a little bit of a misnomer because so usually what goes into installed are plugins that you get off the marketplace, and that's usually what ends up coming into here. So if you go out on the marketplace and you are Fab, right, and you find a plugin, you download the plugin, it will then ask you which project or and that project is tied to the engine, right? So it'll usually install it at the engine level. If it installs it in the engine level, it'll go into installed, and then this is a plugin that will be available for all of your projects. Versus at the project level, right? This is a plugin. These are usually plugins that you can drop them in if you're working on something that's experimental. But this is usually where Unreal Engine will create those plugins that you're creating so that you can distribute. And as you can see here, when we go to the project level, plugins, there's some additional things here, which is package and edit. And we'll go ahead and go over this during through our little overview on how to set up your plugins. Okay, so we want to make a plugin, and so the first thing we need to do is figure out what project we need, and whether we want to do a Blueprint project or we want a C++ project. And depending on which project we pick is going to depend on what type of plugin we're going to want to create. We're going to be allowed to create. So if this is just going to be a plugin that is going to be used to distribute content, and that content could be any Unreal Engine asset. That could be blueprints, materials, animation engines, physics assets, anything that you can create within the editor that doesn't require any C++ at all, that's considered an asset. Then if that's all we care about, then we can just go ahead and use the blueprint, and that will allow us to, and we can get the content only plugin format. But if we are looking to create either plugins that can be used within the editor, or plugins that are going to distribute C++ logic for games, or we want to create a plugin that acts as a wrapper around a third-party piece of technology, then we're going to want to use the C++ project, because we're going to then need to use C++ to facilitate that. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick the C++, and then we'll go ahead and create a project. So because, again, like I said, I'm going to be doing various different ones, I'm going to go ahead and just pick C++. But if all you're interested in is content and content only, then just go with blueprints. So I'm going to pick C++. Then go ahead and give your project a name, hit create, and that should create a project for us like the one I'm currently in. So first off, if you're new to plugins, again, all plugin creation is done through the plugin window. So all you need to do is just come up to edit in the editor, come down to plugins, open this up, and you should see this green plus add button. All you need to do is click on this and it will give us some boilerplate options on plugins for us. So if you're Blueprints only, you'll only see content only. If you're C++, you get all of these. A blank plugin, this is a plugin, this is the basic plugin that will be created for you for C++. It's great, it's empty, just gives you the basics, and this is what you can usually, this is what I've been using to create components that can be distributed, but you can also put classes, bigger pieces of functionality, or even technically you could create a game as a plugin as far as your game logic in C++. But you can just put it in the blank and you can start there. Content only, again, talked about that a lot already. That's really just your C++ assets. Blueprint library. This is where you can create, so just like in Blueprints, you can create a blueprint library and create functionality and create a series of functions that can be reused. You can do the same thing for C++, and this can be very useful. So rather than create a blueprint version of it, it creates a C++ version of it, which it can be used within Blueprints. Can be very useful if you've got like utilities for equations that you want to use over and over again within Blueprints. Can also be very useful if you've got a lot of structs, and in Unreal Engine, if you create a struct, you know structs are really built for data, but also structs can have functions on them in C++, but in Blueprints you don't get access to them. So a way around that, and you see it a lot in Unreal Engine with the Kismet math library or Kismet system library, or even gameplay statics, right? It's a wrapper around that allows you to pass in a structure, and when you pass that structure in, you can then get access to execute the function on that structure. So again, this gives you a workaround solution, and we'll touch base on this as well. So within this video, I'm going to work on blank, content only, and Blueprints. I won't touch the editor stuff because I'm really not familiar with building components for plugins and components for editors yet. But if you're interested, these are the ones that can get you started on that. You've got editor mode, standalone window, as well as a toolbar button. So that'll kind of show you how you can set that up. And then there's a third-party library. Again, not really going to go into it in this video, but this is, again, if you need access to other systems and they're not here in Unreal Engine, right? So Unreal Engine's got a lot of things out of the box, but you may need access to a third-party system, right, or a new third-party device that ships with a computer. Then if there is no plugin, then you're going to need to create something around it. And so this allows you to create a wrapper around somebody else's technology, right? And so that you can then create a blueprint interface to interface with that technology. So that's pretty cool. All right, so from here, once we've decided what we want to do, and I'm going to start off with content only. This is the very basic one. It doesn't require any C++, so we'll go ahead, create this first, and then we'll start moving into maybe Blueprints, and then we'll go up to blank, and then from blank, we'll then move into something a little, hierarchical, and we'll get into that as we kind of move forward. But I'm just going to do content only, so to do that, so once you've decided to select it, you need to give it a name. So here, we'll give it a plugin name. And I'm just going to go ahead and call this cool plugin. Call it plugin demo. And we want to give it a name. So call it, that's me. Description. It's a cool plugin. And then, as you can see here, we've got author URL, if I had an author URL, and then you can flag it immediately up front if this is going to be a beta version or not. And then also decide whether you want to show content. This is a content only, so we definitely want to show content here. And so once that's done, we'll hit create. And once it's created, you should be able to come up under projects and you see here I've got a couple of plugins, Cool Content plugin and Confluent plugin demo. Gonna turn that one off. And we're only interested in the Cool Content plugin demo. And usually if you turn these things on or off, you'll get asked whether you want to restart or not, whether these things are turned on or off. Go turn that on. Restarting it will close the solution and reopen it with the plugin installed. All right, so once our plugin is created, under projects we get access to these two little link buttons here. So if we click on edit, this gives us access to a lot more information. So first off, we could change the icon. So as you can see here, all these plugins have these little icons, but if you've got your own, logo or own unique look and feel, you can go ahead and update that. The version of the plugin, usually what we're going to do is we're going to touch the version name. We're not really going to touch this version here. So this will be version 1, so if you've got 1, this could be 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 2.0. That can be changed here. We can make this a little bit more human readable by putting some spaces in here. So that's the friendly name. Then we have the description. Category, so as you can see here, everything's under other right now, but as you can see, we can change that category. So we can call this Cool Plugins, and created by, you can change that. So all of this information can change, but you've also got access to other things. So you've got created by URL, docs. If this plugin is going to be going up on the marketplace, you can put a link to it as well. That this can be useful when you're redistributing through the marketplace. So if people need to go back to check to see if there's a new version of it, they can go and click on the marketplace link and that should take it back. Support, and then this is the editor virtual path. This is very useful when it comes to finding your plugin in the editor. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give this we'll call this So this is going to create a virtual path in the editor. So this is a good place if you want to start grouping your plugins under your own kind of path. You can do it that way. Can contain content. Well, this is a content only, so yes, it can. Beta version. So as you can see here, some have the experimental flag on there, and I can show you how you can change that a little bit later when we go into the INI file. But for now, we'll stay at beta. Is sealed, again, if true, other plugins cannot use this plugin, so this kind of goes into plugin dependency. But if it's not sealed, that means a plugin can actually use this plugin, so this kind of goes into plugin chains. And then you've also got your no code as well. And then down here we have dependencies. So as you can see here, you've got plugins. There are plugins used by this plugin, and then you've also got plugins that cannot be used by this plugin. So disallow can be used if you have a plugin and you don't want it to be used with other types of plugins. So if there's any plugin conflicts, right, you can go and say this plugin doesn't play nice with other plugins, so you can put the disallow where the plugins dependency, and then if I just pop this open, right, you can find the plugin. So if this plugin is dependent on code that is in another plugin like Audio Play Library, right, I can just select that, and then when my plugin gets installed, if this plugin isn't active, it will go ahead and also activate it, because this plugin, my plugin, is dependent on another person's plugin. So you can kind of set that up there. But since this plugin isn't dependent, I'm just going to go ahead and clear this off. All right, and so I hit OK, and as you can see, once I hit OK, it goes ahead and makes the change. So now we've got cool content plugins. All right, so as far as the plugin is concerned, I think we're done with it for now until we get to Packet. Right, so let's go ahead and set this plugin up so we can put some content in for it to be distributed. All right, so now our plugin is created. Let's go ahead and put some content in there. So to do that, we can come into our content drawer, and if you're new to plugins, you'll see that, well, it should be here, right? So if you're new to plugins, chances are you haven't turned on the plugin content. So if you come up under the little gear here on the right-hand side, you should see this plugin content. So Unreal Engine's got a filter. We're just going to turn on the filter. So once we turn that filter on, you can then see a plugins folder comes up. And as you can see here, here's our Mark's Dev plugins. And then under here, we have a folder for our content plugin. So once we have this set up, we can now start going ahead and creating content straight into our plugin folder. And where we can then set this up so that we can then later on pack it and distribute it. So let's go ahead and create a little bit of test content so that we can set that up. So I'm just going to go ahead and right click, and I think the easiest thing to do here is just create a little test blueprint class, and I'm going to make this I'm going to make it a pawn. All right, so this is a new class, but you can make any kind of asset, anything that's you can create through here. You can create curves, data tables, audio, whatever you want to do. You can put it in here. This is purely for content. This plugin. So I'm just going to create a little blueprint. We can open this blueprint up. And within this blueprint, I can go ahead and put a shape if I wanted to. So we'll say add, create our famous little cube, put it up there, and put a spring arm and camera. But this can be whatever you want. So I'm not going to go into too much detail here. We just set up a camera with a cube, but you can do whatever you need, whatever you want that you want to then distribute. So we're just going to copy that, save it, compile it, save it. Right. And the nice thing about this is if you've got content up here and you've been building content and you say, hey, I've got some cool things here that I might want to distribute, you can then create the plugin, and then all you have to do is just drag that content down and you can just copy it straight in there. So you don't need to necessarily rewrite it. You can just drag and drop. But once it's in here, and again, you can have as many folders or subfolders within your plugin as needs be. But usually I've found that especially when it comes to C++, you might need to have something at the root in order for the editor to be a little bit more responsive in finding stuff. But yeah, so you just treat it as a content. So now that we've got this little object here, we can then go ahead and pack it for distribution so that we can then use it within other games. And to do that, we can do it in two ways. You can either right click on the folder and go to plugins and say package here, straight from the editor, or you can come into the plugins, find it, and then hit package here. And then what this does, Unreal Engine will then go ahead and it will ask you where on your file system you want me to create this package, and it will then go ahead and pack it for you. All right, so in order to do this, we're just going to hit the little package button here, and as you can see here, I'm going to go ahead and put it into my plugin demo. So just select the folder you want, and then once it's selected, Unreal Engine will go ahead and do things. And depending on how much content is in that package, right, will depend on how long it takes to actually package it. So once it's packaged up, we can then go ahead and onto our file system and find the folder where it is, and let's take a look at that. All right, so I'm just going to bring it up. Okay, so this is so when it gets created, right, it's going to create content and resource. You'll probably see a couple of folders. One is content, one is resources. Content is where our blueprint asset is. So again, this is Unreal Engine asset. And so that's our blueprint. And resources, this is our JPEG. So this could, and you don't necessarily, you can have the icon. You could also have additional resources, README files and other things in there. And then finally, we have our content, cool content demo. This is the INI file, and so this is what Unreal Engine is going to be looking for when it wants to include it into the editor. So once we have all that, and then this is just the basic content package. So we can just pop this up real quick and take a look. So I'm just going to open up Visual Studio since I got set mine for Visual. And within there, as you can see over here, here's our version. So here, this is where you can actually change some information if you want to get a little bit more. So you can change the actual, so you can't change this through the editor, but you could change version number here. This can be useful if you have version 1 and version 2 of a plugin and you want to make sure that there's no, you want to remove conflict. File version, don't touch this. This is specific for the editor. Version name, again, this is just a nice, this is the same thing that we could change. So we made that version 1, but I can make it 1, 7, whatever. 99. It's up to you on how you want to do it. So again, this is the friendly name, this is the description. So if you wanted to put a paragraph of information in here, you can just come straight into the INI and park it in there. Category, again, this is the cool plugins category created by me again, and this is where you get access to all this information, right? And this is the can contain content equals true, and beta and installed. So again, these are all the flags, and this is all the basics. We'll come back to this when we start looking at the C++, because when we work with C++, there are some additional things that can be in here as well. So, but that's just the basics of a basic content-only plugin. So I'm just going to go ahead and close that. We'll close that. All right, so this is going to do it for the basics of plugins. In the next video, we will get started with the various C++ plugins. So we'll go ahead and create a library in that one, and then we'll also create a bare bones empty plugin, and then show you how you can compile it and debug it, because now we're working in C++. There's going to be some extra steps in order to make that plugin, conform with Unreal Engine. So I'll walk you through that, and then we'll also we'll go into how you can create plugin hierarchies within the C++ architecture. So again, if you like what I'm doing, feel free to like and subscribe to my channel. Leave a comment below if you have any questions, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers and have a great day.